Lights, camera,
Rolling.
action.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand. Wax on, wax off.
He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses.
Hi, I'm Joe, and this is the Filmjoe podcast, where film talk happens. Hi, I'm Joe.
Hi, I'm Liss.
And welcome to the podcast where we talk about films, filmmakers, trends, the good, the bad, and the not so bad, all in the spirit and for the love of film. So on this episode this week, we are going to be talking about Generation X films or Gen X films. So what was Gen X? Well, we were the generation of self-reliance, pragmaticism, and skepticism. We were the first generation who were, well, you can say technologically adept with PCs, cell phones, social media. We witnessed the birth of grunge music, and we have a love and respect for vinyl. And these characterizations were mirrored in some of the really coolest and great films of that era. So that's who we are, Generation X.
I love it. Best
All right.
generation ever.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? I mean, even though we were part of that generation that was, with the beginnings of, social media and cell phone technology, we were still connected to one another directly, not via technology or any of that crap. And so there was no disconnect.
Absolutely. You drive your bike by the park to find your friends or just drive by their house and see if their bike was there or not.
Right, exactly. That was the way to check on somebody, not with this GPS crap.
Mhm.
But before we continue, let's make everyone aware that there may be spoilers. So if you haven't seen any of these films, you may want to pause this, step away, watch the movies, return, or if you want, just enter at your own risk. And they've been around for quite a while, so but it's up to you. You call it. So you've been warned, right? So,
Right.
all righty. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome back Liss from the podcast. Ouch, was that a ghost? Welcome back, Liss.
Thank you for having me on again.
Yeah, it's so good to have you on. I mean, so tell for those of you who haven't heard your podcast, it is paranormal, true crime, weird stuff kind of podcast. You got stories and historical accounts of things of that paranormal, strange nature. Tell us a little more on where we can find your podcast.
I'm on Spotify, Spreaker, pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts.
Okay.
I'm there. I
Awesome.
just cover anything dark, weird, true crime sometimes. I love cryptids. I'm all over the place.
No, it's great stuff. I mean, I love it because I've always been fascinated with that stuff myself. And I can't really talk about it on this podcast unless I'm talking about it with, within the parameters of a specific film. So you're kind of like my outlet to get all my weirdness out, purge my soul of this darkness. So
Happy to
it's
help.
awesome. It's really great. Exactly. It's like, Joe, you haven't been possessed in about 6 months. That's good. I purged. All righty. So we have email. Now we have email questions from listeners. So I got a couple of questions here. The first one is for both of us, and the second one is for me. So let's go with the one for both of us first. And this is from Gavin from Glasgow, Scotland. And Yes, way out. What do we say? Across the pond, right?
Yes.
And it just so happens that Gavin has him and his buddy. They have their own podcast called Meandering Movie Podcast, and it's a great podcast. If you haven't heard it, check that out. It's fun, and we will be having them on our show in a couple of weeks as well. So so thanks for the question, Gav. All right, so here's the question: should Rose have at least tried to get Jack on the floating door at the end of Titanic?
Listen, I've brought this up on my podcast before. I've said that she is a biatch for not even trying, or at least swapping. And then me and Lee got into it, saying that there wasn't enough time for them to swap, but they could have gone like on their sides or figured something out. Yeah, she sucks for it.
Yeah, what, she did kind of try a little bit, in actuality. I mean,
little bit?
she was like, "Oh, come climb on," and he kind of a little bit. She's like, "I'll fuck it, stay down there." So it was kind of a feeble attempt at it. I think what. She killed him.
I agree. She should be charged.
She should. I mean, she's like, you know what? It was a nice fling. That little tryst we had back there in the back seat of the, Model T Ford in the lower cargo deck. Hey, great. Sweaty fun, steamy fun. But you know what? You're out of here.
Thanks for the painting. Bye.
Exactly. So, but yeah, it was proven on a show called Mythbusters, which is one of my all-time favorite shows. They tested it out, and she could have had him climb on. She could have saved his life.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I believe Mythbusters, and that just furthers my my theory that she took the guy out. She purposely. I mean, it was funny. Even come on, look, she's holding his hand.
Calculated.
It was fucking calculated. I mean, look. They're holding hands, and she's like, "Jack, don't ever leave me. I'll never leave you, Rose. I'll never leave you." And then he starts to like fade away and shit, and she's yanking his hand away from hers, like, "Okay, no, don't ever." Okay, whoa, there you go, and he floats away. Yeah, she don't ever leave me in spirit. Okay,
yeah.
So yeah, I don't think she tried hard enough. I mean, it wasn't heartfelt, her response, and afterwards she was like, "Oh, blowing the whistle and so forth," and it is what it is. So no, I don't think she tried hard enough.
Agreed.
Yeah. So now the second question is for me, and this is from Maria Hatch from Lake Forest, California, and she asks. And she actually put this question on Instagram before, and I ignored it. But here we go. You'll find out why. Second time I asked this question. Yeah, what is my favorite Robert Pattinson film, and why is it Twilight? So, first of all, I have nothing against Robert Pattinson. I seen him in The Lighthouse. I think he turned in a very interesting performance. He really impressed me with his performance as the new Batman in The Batman, which I think he did a great job in it. And no, I can't stand Twilight. I hate it with every fiber and every ounce of energy that I have in my body. Can't stand the film.
Joseph.
I mean, glittery vampires.
It's so bad looking back on now, especially the CGI baby. But at the time when the craze was going on, I loved it.
Oh my God. What were you, 15 at the time? This movie's horrible.
No, I don't know. I loved it.
Oh my God. I mean, I can deal with, questionable CGI. I can, go with, okay, I can kind of, bad special effects or whatever, or even some bad acting. But the script, the storyline, the actor, I mean, oh geez. And you know what? Robert Pattinson, again, as I stated, he's not a bad actor, but it looked like he was in a coma while filming this.
I think he was feeding off the lead actress.
Oh,
feeding off of her
Kristen
energy.
Stewart. What energy?
Exactly.
And then, you got these scenes where it's like, oh, the intro. Oh, what was his name? What was this vampire's name? Robert Pattinson. Edward? No, not
Edward. Jacob
Edward?
and Edward. So Jacob was the werewolf and Edward was the vampire. Edward Cullen. That's what it was.
Now, okay. Now let's get something straight here. Let us not sully the name or the word werewolf when we're describing this. I love werewolves, and that was not a werewolf. That was a wolf boy. No. So anyway, But yeah, there's a scene where Edward shows up and he drives up in this car. It's like 90210 kind of, tone and all that. And he steps out the car. You get this really cliche tropey shot where you see his boot from underneath the door as it opens. And it's a sexy kind of music. And it just, the camera tilts up. It goes up to to Edward, and you see in slow motion, I kid you not, he flicks his head back and his wavy hair. I'm like, oh God, no.
It's so bad, it's good.
It's so bad, it's bad. I mean, this is, you know what? Okay, I will finally concede. I will watch Drop Dead Fred again over Twilight.
Thank you. I will take that. You're
I mean, it is
finally making the right decision here.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 0.00001 films out there that I would watch over Drop Dead Fred, and that's it. So to get directly back to the question, I'd have to say I haven't seen much of Pattinson's work, but I really did enjoy his performance as the Batman and giving it an interesting take. So that's where I lie on that. So.
Do you know what I hated about the Batman movie? This has nothing to do with the plot or anything. But do you remember when he drew all over his floor and ruined his nice floor?
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, why? Why wouldn't you just get a piece of paper? That stressed me out so much.
Yeah, I remember. Well, you know what? Maybe that kind of his obsessive kind of like, his obsessiveness just consuming him, and he goes beyond reason, and instead of I'm gonna do
and
this
who's gonna clean it?
Oh, Alfred.
Or they're gonna have to refloor that.
Yeah, I guess aside from that, he was a pretty good Batman, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. I think we've got that out there in the open. Don't like Twilight, can't stand it. Pattinson, nothing personal against him. He's a pretty decent actor. So, and you know what? Let me tell you something. Pay me that kind of paycheck, and I would wave my hair and I will throw glitter on my face to be a fanciful vampire. We all have a price, so but you can't blame the guy.
Mm-hmm.
It was a paycheck,
Yeah.
Yeah. All righty. So, what do you say we get into this week's episode?
Let's get it.
So, for the first film, there's no point to any of this. It's all just a random lottery of meaningless tragedy and a series of near escapes. So I take pleasure in the details.
I'm making this documentary about my friends, but it's really about people who are trying to find their own identity without having any real role models or heroes or anything.
And it seems like your friends would be perfect for that.
I truly believe that if we can get 2 women on the Supreme Court, we can get at least 1 on you, Sam.
I lost my job.
Why did you get a job at Burgerama?
I was valedictorian of my university.
Well, you don't have to put that down on your application.
Do you have any idea what it means to be a cashier at Wiener Schnitzel? There you go, sir. And have a tune, Wiener dude.
A couple of smokes, a cup of coffee, and a little bit of conversation. You and me and $5.
You got it. He's strange, he's sloppy, he's a total nightmare for women. I can't believe I haven't slept with him yet.
Are you religious?
I guess I'm a non-practicing Jew.
Hey, I'm a non-practicing virgin.
Did he dazzle you with his extensive knowledge of mineral water?
He's not a yuppie.
What is your glitch, huh?
My glitch?
And why are you acting like a jealous boyfriend all of a sudden?
Hi.
You look beautiful. You look like a doily.
A documentary filmmaker and her fellow Gen X graduates face life after college looking for work and love in Houston, Texas. The film we were talking about is Reality Bites from 1994, and it is directed by Ben Stiller. The film stars Winona Ryder, Ethan Hawke, and Janine Garofalo. So for this film, we're going to go on a rating system of 1 to 10 BMWs. Yeah. That because if you think about it, the BMW is the antithesis of the ideology of Gen Xers. Remember, that was an 80s thing, the whole yuppies thing with the Beamers. And that's what the Generation X kind of like fought against, or were not, in line with that, that philosophy of that way of life. So So yeah, Beamers. We'll go with Beamers. All right.
Okay.
All right. So let's give with some backstory on this on the production. So in 1991, producer Michael Schamberg had the idea to make a film about people in their 20s, and so he had read another screenplay that had been written by Helen Childress. That was on spec back in 1990, and it dealt with the same kind of subject matter of postgraduate college kids trying to figure out where they're going in life and so forth. So overall, this thing went through about 70 different drafts, and it went into production in 1991 and was finally released on February 20th of 1994 under the title Reality Bites. This film, I'd seen it once when it came out originally, and I didn't remember much of it up till now, upon rewatch, but I do remember that it spoke to me, and it really resonated with me. What was your take on this?
I do remember seeing it before when I was younger, and it was like same. It wasn't that memorable. But watching it back now, like I get what they were going for, given the whole 90 vibe, the MTV-esque shots and all that stuff.
Right.
And trying to connect with kids post-college life. But I thought it was so dry and horrible. I hated it. The only thing that had me laughing was the psychic call when she was like that whole advertisement. So I wanted to love it.
That's interesting. I don't think it was trying to be a comedy. I think it was trying to be more sarcastic, cynical statement of the generation post college graduation tone.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. I'm just saying that's the only enjoyment I got out of the whole movie was that psychic call. The love triangle thing that they tried to set up. Ethan Hawke sucks. Like the character he plays in this.
He was a dick.
He's such a loser, like red flag. You know what I mean? He's emotionally abusive. He's lazy. And he tries to be like, oh, I don't want to be a sellout. Like just as an excuse. Well, Ben Stiller plays this really nice guy, kind of dorky, that is, I guess, the sellout.
Right, but exactly.
I was like yelling at the screen, like, why are you going with this idiot?
Yeah, you know what? Now that you mention it, that little love triangle, there was a bit distracting in a way, a little melodramatic, a little bit too much. I mean, for me, what really resonated with me is that I knew these people. I hung out in that apartment and, discussing life while listening to Alice in Chains and smoking Camels and drinking, my espresso and my latte and all that stuff. I did that. And, hell, I used a gas card to survive and eat at one point. So yeah, basically my lifestyle was basically caffeine, nicotine, and coffee houses, while getting in a game of chess in between and talking about life and trying to figure out who I was. And again, that's where this film resonated for me. And yeah, I get your point, and I do agree. It was a little too, 90210-ish, where it's like, he doesn't want to sell. I mean, you're right. If you look at it now, we're older now, but that ideology, we would have been like, yeah, man, don't sell out, man. You stick with your... Now, I mean, how far did he get in life with that in real life? You think about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I did like how that they delved a little bit into like homosexuality and AIDS, that whole epidemic, which in, what did you say, 94 it came out?
Yeah.
That's pretty progressive.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, because our generation, we grew up. I mean, the AIDS epidemic exploded. It came out. It was the early to mid '80s, and that carried with us the fear of casual sex and so forth, and the fear of you stick it in, you're gonna blow up one of these days. But it's gonna get that bad. I mean, well, not to that extent. That'll be fucked up. But
that's like in Mean Girls. They say like if you have sex, you're gonna like die immediately.
Right, exactly. So that was interesting. But one thing, there was one line that really was impactful, and I thought was pretty heavy, because we grew up with the half-hour sitcom where One Day at a Time and Good Times and stuff like that. Everything's wrapped up nicely with a nice bow at the end of the half hour, whatever issues there were and so forth. There was always a solution. we believed in the Brady Bunch universe. And, that universe came crashing down for us. And there's a line where he says, when, this happened when Mr. Brady died of AIDS, which is like, wow. And that was true because,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he was gay and he contracted and he passed away of AIDS. And that's where the reality of life kind of kicked in. So I think that was one of the most profound lines in the film that really, I had to pause and go, wow, that's sad, but so true. And again, the generation before us was the go-go 80s, flash, excess of this, of that, the BMW. And we were at this point, we were about balancing our dreams and not compromising for money and career advancement. And is it worth it? I mean, in the long run, you go, fuck yeah, it is worth it because you get a good career, and so forth.
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, that was the, our ideals. And the film overall, it asks what happens when the life you were promised isn't the life that you got. And that's the profundities of where we were mentally as a generation back then, and that's what we did in coffee houses. And it was great. I mean, depressing, but it was great. And but yeah, so I mean, I really enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I love the cast. It had a great cast. Winona Ryder was great. Ethan Hawke was great. Even Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller, he also directed this as well.
Oh, I read that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and he did a great job. I think. I love Janine Garofalo, who played Vicky.
Yeah.
She was great. I mean, she was the epitome of 90s sarcasm and freedom of sorts. And so again, like I said earlier, I knew Liliana, I knew Troy, I knew Vicky, I knew Michael, I knew all these guys, but we still had our drama. But our drama was dealt with face to face and not through a keyboard.
Yep. No, I agree. I didn't connect with the characters like you did. I think that was my problem. I think Winona Ryder was the only one that I was like, oh, she's so, I don't know, kind of relatable, but the other ones I just couldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, and that's the thing. I guess it really is specific to who it resonates with and who it touches. I guess I just like I said, I grew up out here in LA, on the West Side, which is the whole. You remember that show, Melrose Place?
Yep, I do.
That was the kind of lifestyle and environment I grew up, or when I was a teenager, a young adult. It just tripped me out. So that's, to me, I really enjoyed this film. I really, really did. Not a perfect film, but pretty deep.
So it has its audience, I guess.
It does, I think, and it's not one of those like, wow, it hits everybody. And I can see where it doesn't, overall, but I think for sure generations before and generations after for sure are not going to get it. They're not going to get these profound elements, of the generation and so forth. Yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay.
All right. So you weren't sold on it, were?
No, I don't know. There was like a disconnect. Like I got what they were doing. Like I get the nostalgia. I get the trying to give that whole 80s vibe, but I don't know. The characters, they just didn't mesh for me.
Okay. And I can see where they can also come across as kind of annoying as well in some scenarios as well. Which, by the way, little side note, which was really interesting. The MTV thing that they were doing, what was it? What was the name of that show they were doing on there? In Your Face or something?
Yeah, I don't even remember, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And what's interesting, there's one little segment they're doing before where they're in South Central Los Angeles, which is where I grew up with. I was a teenager in South Central, and they're like, we're right here on the corner of Florence and Normandy. I grew up like 5 minutes away from there. That was like right around the corner from my house, which also was the epicenter of the 1992 Rodney King riots. That's where it started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was kind of trippy. I'm like, that's kind of crazy. So, but yeah. So what do you say? Let's get into the box office and the budget on this. The budget at the time was about $11.5 million. which is a little bit over 24.4 million, so average budget. Box office at the time was 33.3 million, and that's about $70.8 million today. So that's a nice little return on a small film like this. And I guess it was just kind of trendy, it was hip, it was in, and I think that's what kind of drove the numbers on that.
Were those actors that were in there at the time, were they really well known? Is that what drove it, or just the premise?
Just the premise. I mean, I know that Winona Ryder had done, what was it, Heathers beforehand.
Oh, that was so good. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one thing, one film I like to go back to on the pod, because that's a pretty good one as well. But other than that, yeah, Ben Stiller was kind of a TV guy, at the time. He did some TV. So there was no major A-listers in this. So I think it was just the trendiness and kind of like the way American Graffiti spoke to people of that generation. This film spoke to the people of our generation for the most part. And I think that's what sold it. It's like, wow, we're being represented and so forth. And, I think it was one of the better films of that era dealing with this sort of subject matter. So let's go with the reviews and scores. Roger Ebert. First of all, the film, it opened to generally very positive reviews. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times, he gave this film 2 out of 4 stars. Yeah. So he said that the film, I think, is that movies like this aren't made up from scratch. They're fabricated out of other movies and out of old and shop-worn conventions. No, I disagree.
That was rude.
Yeah, that was, yeah. It's like, damn, dude, you didn't like it? Fine. Don't be a dick about it. Yeah, so, I mean, he was very I don't know if you're familiar with his work, as a critic, but he was pretty snobbish during his run. But yeah, so now let's look at the scores overall across the board. IMDb, it's sitting at a 6.6. Metascore 67, Rotten Tomatoes score 62%, with an audience score of 75%. Letterboxd is at 3.4 stars out of 5. So mid-range to just above average is where this movie rated, with the exception of Roger Ebert, who didn't like it. But there were no sequels or spin-offs or anything. There was a lot of stuff that was obviously inspired by this film. So what do you say we jump into our ratings? You go first. Remember, we're going to go on the Filmjoe scale of 1 to 10 BMWs.
Okay. I do appreciate the nostalgic factor, like the trying to set you up for that era. But for me, it was a really hard watch. Like, okay. I couldn't connect with them, and I would never watch it again, but I get what they were going for. So I'll give it 5 Beamers.
All right, fair enough. I get where you're coming from, because it is very it's not a free-flowing kind of film, you know what I mean? It's not one of those you get on, like you feel like you're on a ride. It's kind of bumpy and it's kind of awkward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it was just more frustrating than anything else to me. It was the love triangle. If that was out of it, maybe I would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah, I tend to, I'm going to have to agree with you a little bit on that, because it was a little like, come on, dump them both. One is Clueless and the other one is a loser. So for me, I found it very relatable, and the in-depth character study of Gen X was really, really identifiable. The cast was great, solid script, really smart writing. And the film makes you think, and for some of us, makes us look back. To me, I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10 BMWs. So so I really dug it. It had, I like stuff that goes into your brain and you have to chew on it for a while. Makes you think, especially, again, if you're able to identify or not. It does make you think, and that's what I like. It's a pretty smart script.
Okay. No, I can totally understand. It missed me. Okay.
No, fair enough. And I think we're going to have the opposite reaction to the next one. So, okay. This is no Drop Dead Fred. I'm just letting you know it's not going to be that bad. So next up, it's sex, clothes, popularity. Is there a problem here?
Mr. Hall was way harsh. He gave me a C-. Well, he gave me a C, which drags down my entire average. Hello? There was
a stop sign?
I totally paused. You try driving in platforms. Oh, should I write them a note? Ew, get off of me. As if.
Cher's got attitude about high school boys.
It's a personal choice every woman has got to make for themselves.
Cher's saving herself for Luke Perry.
Cher, you're a virgin? I mean, I'm not prude. I'm just highly selective. I mean, you see how picky I am about my shoes, and they only go on my feet.
Nice stems.
Thanks.
What the hell is that?
A dress.
Says who?
Calvin Klein.
Shallow, rich, and socially successful Cher is at the top of her Beverly Hills School's pecking scale. Seeing herself as a matchmaker, Cher first coaxes two teachers into dating each other. The film we are talking about is Clueless from 1995, and it is directed by Amy Heckerling. The film stars Alicia Silverstone, Stacey Dash, and Brittany Murphy. So for this film, let's go ahead and give this a rating scale of 1 to 10 Gucci outfits. How's that sound?
I love it.
All right. So the idea actually for this film, it originated as a television pilot that came out a couple of years before in 1993. And so it was written and directed by Amy Heckerling. And so 20th Century Fox, because they wanted a show about teenagers, because let's be honest, teenage shows, they sell, good or bad, but not the nerds. They just wanted the cool kids. And so the most successful character in anything I'd ever done was Jeff Spicoli, she states. Now, she directed a film called Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So she wanted to try to replicate that with a new character. So as research for the script, Heckerling sat in on classes at Beverly Hills High School to get a feel for student culture, commenting, and so forth. And one thing that she observed is that these girls were in a constant state of grooming, like fucking cats, I guess. I don't know. And so she put together the script, and they read the script, and they're like, this has potential for something. So it was titled No Worries at the time. So basically 6 months later, the script went in to producer Scott Rudden. He gave it a stamp of approval. It went into production, and the film was finally released in the U.S. on July 19, 1995. So let's get your takes on this one.
This movie was a masterpiece. It was iconic. I remember going to see it and just being in awe of her clothing, her closet. Why don't we have that? It's 2024. Like, that's crazy. And it wasn't even just her style. It was like, I know that you said she was like shallow, but I saw her more as like a girl that could manipulate her surroundings. You know what I mean? Like, she was given a grade. Nope, let's go and renegotiate that. What did her father say? 2 permits don't equal a license. Like, she could just drive her permit, use her permit, and drive around town. Like, I love this movie so much. The clothes, the characters, everything about it. But looking back at it, the whole Paul Rudd thing, who looks the exact same now, by the way.
Yeah.
That was really uncomfortable to rewatch.
Wasn't that her stepbrother?
It was, but it wasn't even just, I mean, the stepbrother thing is uncomfortable, but the age gap too, because she's still in high school and he's in college. So I don't know how old she was supposed to be in the show.
16.
In the movie, 16, and he's at least 18 plus. If he's off in college, you'd assume.
No, he's about 22 at least.
Oh, 22, you think? Did they say that in the movie?
No, but he'd been in college for a while. So
yep, you're right.
So he's been experiencing life, this whole Greenpeace thing and traveling. So he's at least 22. So
that is a problem.
Yeah.
Looking back. But I love Brittany Murphy so much, and it's so sad. What did she pass when she was like 30 something?
She was 32.
Yeah, she was one of my favorite actresses, and she did a phenomenal performance in this, as always.
Yeah, I too, I enjoyed the cast. They had a great cast, aside from the, there's a couple of problematic elements. But this is my first time watch. Okay. I'd heard about it. Yes. This one's just one of those movies that got away from me. And I'd always heard the buzz. And, from what I had seen, And so, I mean, I thought Alicia Silverstone was cute. I liked a couple of movies she'd done before that, but I wasn't very impressed this time when I finally got to see it. It's okay. It's not very cohesive. I mean, you got a lot of jump from one plot point to another. And then sometimes just abandoning the previous plot points altogether. It almost seems episodic and told in segmental skits, which is something. Have you ever seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
I have.
Now, that movie is segmental in skit wise. It's kind of like, here's a story, here's a story, here's a story. And they're kind of all strung together. And it's kind of like a day in the life or the semester in the life of. And I think that's what Heckerling was trying to attempt here. But I feel that she just kind of failed, and she failed miserably. Cher's her arc really doesn't go anywhere until very late into the third act. And at that, it wasn't even a profound conclusion to her, to her journey. She's like, oh, maybe I should do this. I don't know. It just kind of fell flat for me. I mean,
I
what did she?
loved it.
I mean, what did she realize? That she's in love with her stepbrother.
I think she was just trying to be a better person. Like he rubbed off on her. 18. Just her growing as a person. And I like the transition. I felt like I don't know about directing and all that like you do, but I felt like the transitions where they zoomed in on people and then they like slowly backed away. So you saw something funny that it changed to it. It felt like a teenager, like forever changing, evolving, like you're in different situations constantly. It just felt like high school.
But she is a shallow, clueless person all the way through and it's not until the you don't see that transition until the very end, like close to the end of middle of the third act, let's say. Like
you don't remember when she said No, I was saying you don't remember when Ty came to the school and she decided she had to adopt her?
Oh, God.
How is that shallow? I think she was just she had a great heart, but she wasn't that intelligent. Like she wasn't not intelligent, but just not aware of what's going on around her. But she had a good heart and good intentions on everything she was doing.
But it was as shallow as a petri dish. Her thing was, oh, look, I'm going to make her popular. I'm going to do something good. I'm going to change her look so everybody can like her. What the hell kind of message is that to send to kids? You know what? You want to be accepted. You want to be popular. You got to dress a certain way, act a certain way, hang out with certain people. That is as shallow and as clueless. Again, great title. I'll give it that because it is Clueless.
I think she was just manipulating her problems at the time. She didn't have any problems further than that. So she was fixing everything within her parameters.
Why?
Because she was trying to be a good person because her
above
age stepbrother was rubbing off was showing her how the world is bigger than just herself.
But at what point is she being made aware, or are we as viewers being made aware that she is a less than nice person, or that her character is questionable? No, she's presented as a cutie, as a goofy kid with who's clueless and just like. No, we never question her character or what she's doing wrong in life, right? So it doesn't make sense. How to become a better person, but that motivation is backed by nothing as an exterior motivation. So it just breaks down for me. I mean, I tried to like it. I really, really did. And it wasn't horrible. Again, Alicia Silverstone, she is so sweet and cute and charming and a damn good actress. Like we mentioned, Brittany Murphy was fantastic. I
love that line. You're a virgin who can't drive.
Right.
Like the biggest diss of the movie.
Oh, it's hilarious. It did have some good lines. It really, really did. Stacey Dash, Donald Faison, who used to be on what's that show, Scrubs. He was great in that. I mean, it just had a great cast. But the skit again. I think the part that my biggest hang up is this pacing, almost like a skit-like pacing of jumping from one situation to the next. It didn't work. I mean, it worked in films like American Graffiti, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Porky's, American Pie. but not here. It just fell flat. And it does come across as a shallow, almost like another film that's highly, loved that I found to be dog shit was a movie called Breakfast at Tiffany's. And that's considered a classic. This is right up there with it, as in its shallowness and the lack of depth. Maybe because I just saw this right after Reality Bites, which is heavy into really deep subject matter.
Yeah.
Something so deep, and then again, was it cute? Yeah, it had some cute stuff, and I actually did smile and kind of chuckle a little bit. I chuckled a bit at the end, but it was a little bit too late for me.
Oh, we didn't even discuss Christian, her transatlantean hard-boiled detective boyfriend.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh, I loved him in it. That was obviously gay, but she wasn't aware of it when they were at
oh my God, that was hilarious. And it's that I did laugh at, not because I'm laughing at gay people, but it's like this was the prime example of how clueless she was.
But
she
his
goes
accent and everything made it great.
He's listening, he dresses good. He listens to Billie Holiday, and he pays not much attention to her. But oh my gosh, that was hilarious. But again, you know what? And that was a good character. I liked his character. But what was the point of that whole thing? It led nowhere. Maybe it just led to her having a shopping buddy. That's about it. And so I found it just a wasted character, and a road started with promise that led nowhere. And you think, okay, well, it's going to turn out that he is going to be the one to show her the true path of her journey. He's going to open up her eyes to how shallow she is, or how clueless she is, and where she needs to put her focus. And I think could have been that character, but it wasn't. It's another throwaway character.
See, I still don't think she's shallow. I think we just saw, as a teenage girl, I loved her. I loved everything about this. And I just thought she had like a great heart. And she still, when I looked back and saw it again, same thing. The only thing that changed was the whole Paul Rudd thing, which I always loved him. I think he's great.
Yeah,
but the age difference thing, as an adult looking at it, it's like, eek. But when I was young, I was like, oh, that's so romantic. Statutory rape. Aw.
Right. Oh my God.
Sorry.
Oh God. Well, I think that maybe that's where this movie got stuck. I mean, I wasn't the right audience for it, or the right demographic. But I'm not going to sit here and go, well, there are chick flicks and there's guy flicks. I believe that's horseshit. Flicks are flicks for everybody. I'll sit there and watch Steel Magnolias and Titanic, and I'll cry or whatever, and I'll feel the emotions. So I don't believe in that shit that there's, because this is a chick flick. No, this is just a flick that didn't resonate with me, and it had so many holes in it that I think it rivals Swiss cheese. I mean, it was so holy. It's sanctified, I guess.
Joe.
What?
I don't know if it's the female male thing. I think this just had a lot of fashion in it. So if that doesn't get you excited, then maybe that was where it missed you.
But that's shallow. There's no depth to fashion.
I think because it was so different for the time. Because when I was going to school, it was a lot of like those, I guess, grunge look going on.
Yeah.
Nobody had like the cute little skirts and tall socks, and she always matched with Dion every time she went to school. And you know what I mean? It just felt like a whole new, I don't even know what I'm saying, a whole new, fashion era that she like introduced.
Liss.
Yes.
Admit it. The movie was shallow. It had no depth.
I love this movie. It is one of my all-time favorites. I've seen it so many times. Me and my friend went out and got pretty much the same outfits that they had shortly after the movie came out.
Oh my God.
And we rocked them.
Well, you know what? That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, I think we all need movies like that in our lives that just do something to us and make us happy. I'm sure, upon rewatch, you were like, had that warm, fuzzy, excited, you're like visiting an old friend. And I think That's great. To me, this was just not even an old friend. It was some stranger on the road that I didn't get along with. I mean, but you know what? I do see the merits, some of the merits you're talking about that worked for you. Unfortunately for me, it just didn't do it, and I think there was a lot of wasted opportunity with a great cast. With Rudd, with Dash, with Murphy, with Faison, with Silverstone. It was a great cast. Um, but yeah, I mean, it just was not as deep and meaningful as I was looking for. Or you know what? I'll just get away from deep and meaningful and profound. At least give me something cohesive and something that I go, that's funny, and something with a little bit more of a solid structure and not just glitz and glamour and like as if.
I love that.
All righty. So you know what? I didn't take a total dog shit on it, did I? Right? I just
No, but you weren't for it
it
at
was
all
full.
either. It was like you were Rose on the door and Jack was Clueless.
He's like sink. Sorry, buddy. So the budget in box office at the time, the budget of the time was about 12 million, which is about $24.8 million in today's dollars. Box office, $222 million, which is about
Yes.
$459.2 million. There you go. There is the power of the fangirl ticket right there. It did
And
really,
I
really
paid
well.
into it. I bought one of those tickets.
Oh gosh, yeah, it did really, really, really well. It opened really to very positive reviews. Roger Ebert, he gave this 3.5 out of 4 stars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know if you saw the same movie, but okay, we'll give him that. IMDb sitting at a 6.9, Metascore 71, Rotten Tomatoes score 81% with an audience score of 76. Letterboxd sitting at 3.7 out of 5. So it really did well. It got really good reviews. It was received well. It did bonkers box office. And I'm not going to say that it was a bad film. I'm just going to say I to me it was not a good film personally. Nor would I tell people like yourself who love this movie. I'm not going to sit here and go, you're out of your mind if you like this movie. It's garbage. No, to you it is not. But for me, it just didn't hit the mark. It didn't really resonate as much. But I do say it was not boring, and it was quite delightful in some parts.
Some parts, all the parts.
So obviously, the film did so well that in 1996, they released a series on ABC called Clueless, and it ran up until 1999. Silverstone was not in the show. She couldn't be on the show because she had a commitment already with Columbia TriStar, and so she was unable to commit to the show. But I don't know if she was involved in as a producer or anything. But here's the thing with Alicia Silverstone: she exploded so hugely after this film that she started getting development deals to produce other films after this. So,
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, nothing came of it. I mean, she recently made a comeback in a film. I forgot what it is. I saw it in some article. But she hasn't really done much after the whole Clueless, 90s thing. So,
now,
which is too bad.
Was Blast from the Past, that was after this or before this?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. But
that was a really good one.
Yeah, and did she do some film like some obsessive babysitter or something like that?
Oh yes, I remember that.
Yeah, the title escapes me, but it was a damn good movie. And again, she is really, really good. Now she was Batgirl. I don't know if you remember Batman and Robin.
I didn't see that. No, I saw pictures of her dressed up in the costume, but I've never seen that movie.
Yeah. No, that was a disaster right there. I mean, that was just horrible. But she was pretty good as Batgirl for what it was. So, But yeah, so let's get into our ratings. I'll give my rating first on this. So Here we go. So it was cute. Sometimes it was humorous, but it was as shallow and as clueless as our main character, with not much of an arc to go by and not much redeeming qualities to counter her qualities as a character in the beginning. So she ended up, well, not very far off. So to me, I'm going to give this 6 out of 10 Gucci outfits, and that's being very generous. Well, you know what? That's because of the cast. It's a really fun, attractive cast, very talented. So there you go, 6 out of 10 Gucci outfits.
Mm-mm. I love this movie. I've seen it so many times, and I know I'm going to see it so many more. And she is the most unshallow character. Joe's like, don't come on my show anymore. I love it. I understand how you say it's not like that she is shallow, but she has such a good heart. In every little instant she's in, she's trying to make the world a better place around her. Even if it's in only the way that she knows, like donating skis to people, I forget where, somewhere that never use skis, but it's just she's trying to be nice about it, or doing her
Right.
makeovers a word a day. Like she's just such a kind-hearted person that you can't help but fall in love with her. I'm going to give it 9 Gucci outfits because I love this movie so much and I'm going to watch it over and over and over.
Wow. Okay, 9. Okay, you know what? Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, I mean, but one thing that can be argued about this film is that it became a cultural icon of a film. The whatever and as if really became catchphrases because of this movie. So, I'll give it credit for that. And it's pretty interesting. So, further recommendations that I have for Gen X films that came out around the same time. Film called Singles, which starred Matt Dillon and Bridget Fonda, and it's basically a young group of adults in their 20s who share an apartment in the city of Seattle, and they ponder, things about love, and they face the challenges of adulthood. And it's a pretty good film, kind of like in the same vein of Reality Bites.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was pretty good. It's a good film, very grungy. And great music, just like the first film we did, Reality Bites. Really good soundtrack.
Oh, they had a fantastic soundtrack. That was the one thing that they had going for them, too, on Reality Bites.
Oh, yeah. Really, really good. And, because I was all into the grunge music as well. And, the alternative rock scene. And yeah, it's great. So Singles, one I definitely recommend. Another one, this one's from 1990, and this with Christian Slater. And it's called Pump Up the Volume, where he plays. Have you seen this?
Yes. I love that movie.
Great fucking movie. Kind of the rebellious kind of like aspect. And he runs a pirate radio station that causes an uproar when he speaks his mind and just enthralls his fellow teens. Kind of like a cultural revolution of sorts. He kind of starts. So, but it's really good, a really good film. And there's several others, these Generation X movies that came out around the time. And what it always takes me back to was hanging out at coffee houses, talking about life, being an adult, and things like that. All without the distraction of social media. And dealing with our dramas face on with within each other. And it was just a beautiful time. It was really interesting and great music. The grunge revolution, and I have very fond memories of that era. And that was my adulthood. I mean, there was 2 phases to the Generation X, which were the teenagers in high school, and then you got your post, college or young adults groups, during that era. And I was part of the latter. And just I'm an adult now, and I'm in the real world. And who am I? What am I about? What am I going to be? It was great. It was a great time.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now we got this thing called Quote of the Day. Do you have a quote for us from either one of these 2 movies that resonated with you the most?
Well, you know which movie I'm going from. I have to pick. There's probably 2 of them that I love. I love when she says, "You're a virgin who can't drive," and that's the big diss. And I love when they first meet Ty and they say, "We've got to adopt her."
All right. I like those 2. Those are pretty damn good quotes. All right. You know what? I'll give it that. It had some good quotes as well. It did. I mean, to me, the most, as if, whatever. But it was fun. That was fun. All righty. So let's see. So, let's start winding this down. What do you say?
Perfect.
Alrighty. So join us next week when we get into a competitive mood as we step up to the plate. We kick a field goal and we make a hole in one and we make a slam dunk, and we get ready for a sporting good time where we cover a couple of really cool sporting films. So make sure you join us for that. And I'd like to say, Liss, thank you so much for joining us today. You know, you're part of the Filmjoe podcast family, and we thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me on again.
All right, and you're always welcome. And so, again, where can we catch your fantastic podcast?
On any podcast platform. I don't know the names of them like you do. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, wherever you get your podcast fix, just look up Outros That It Goes, so you can look them up on Google it, and it'll tell you where her show is. But definitely highly recommend jumping on and checking out her show. It's really a lot of fun. So with that being said, please help to support the podcast by giving us a nice 5-star rating. Leave us a good review. Or another way you can help to support us is simply to follow us and or subscribe to us on Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Audible, Boomplay, or wherever you get your podcast fix. Also, don't forget to drop by our Instagram page. We also have our TikTok and our YouTube channel where we drop all of our regular episodes as well. We have all these links there in the link tree below in the show notes. Please check it out. A lot of cool stuff there. You can also contact us directly via email to thefilmjoepod@gmail.com. We love to hear your feedback. Please keep sending in those questions and your thoughts of the show. So thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. Thank you, Liss, for coming on. And so with that being said, I'm Joe.
I'm Liss.
And this is the Filmjoe podcast,
where film talk happens.